Alrighty. Welcome to August 9th, Wednesday workshop. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Feel free to pile in your questions into the Q&A. Chat is not monitored while we are doing the train or while during Wednesday workshop. So we prefer that you drop any questions or comments in the Q&A. It makes it a little bit easier for us to keep track of what you guys need from us. Feel free to go ahead and start piling them in there, and we'll get started in just a moment. We'll just wait for a couple more people to trickle in. Alrighty. Good morning, Todd. How are you guys doing today? Before we haven't gotten any questions yet. If you guys would like to, feel free to drop in. What are some things that you've been running into as far as for, just things in the system? Are you new? Are you a user who's been on the system for a while and you're just looking for, what are next steps? Feel free to give us a pulse on how you're doing and open to close too. Righty. So we've got a question. I have a question about your DNS, about linking your DNS. You want to clarify what acronym you're using there, Anthony? That would be great. DNS. I'm not familiar with that term, or maybe I am, but I'm not sure what it is. I noticed it disabled all your additional emails as well. So I think I found a workaround in Workspace. You can add emails if you're a fan of Outlook. You can link your emails and calendar to Outlook. Now you can link all three systems together. I'll probably want to see what you're referring to as far as for linking things together or linking the emails together. I haven't seen any.
The DNS, there's certain certifications that your email and your server is going to be doing behind the scenes when you connect emails together. And so part of the setup, especially when doing aliases, if you're doing at Gmail, it's an STMP mapping. In some cases, when you're connecting different emails together, you're doing a DNS setup with that. And so it is pretty advanced there, but I believe that's what it's relating to. So I have been on some calls today, Anthony. I'll definitely follow up with you afterwards on that. But glad to hear that you're able to get some of those details ironed out as you're connecting things. So yeah, feel free to post follow-ups as needed.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you, Jenna, for jumping in on that. I was like, yeah. Are we talking about the domain name server, or are we talking that term can be used in a couple different areas. So I was like, wait a second. All right. Our next question is, can you show a sample one sheet? Yes, I can. So we'll head over to our webinar property and open to close. Once we're in here, we're going to go over to our one sheet tab here. Now, most of you guys who are just like starting out, you may have some of our pre-built templates. If you do not have one, we'll want to head into the back end, but let's just go ahead and say create a one sheet. I'm just going to call it Hannah's one sheet. We'll say submit, pop in that. Here it is. So this is what it looks like if we don't apply a template. So if you're just trying to poke around and take a peek at it, if we click on contacts, we're saying what contacts do we want to share? So here I can see contacts. I'm saying I want this to show up on my one sheet. What do I want to show up on top of that? Do I want to show, the buyers? And what information do I want to show for them? Their personal information, their business information. If I scroll down, I also have the option to show the pinned tasks or completed tasks, scheduled tasks, unscheduled tasks. I also have the option to show documents. I can show the placeholder notes if I'd like to. I can just show the documents. I can also flag missing documents. This one's really, really cool because if we have any missing, they'll get flagged. Whoever you're sending this to, whether you're sending it to a buyer's agent or a listing agent, you can kind of let them know, hey, these are the documents that we're still waiting on. We could also send one out where we're flagging the fully executed documents, where we're saying, hey, these are all the documents that we have signed. Does this sheet look good? Do we have everything on here that we need? Also notes and include document file links. So there's a couple cool things with this. I'll go ahead and select some options here. I'm not going to add in a property note. I can type up an email subject, pop in an email. Here I've got some more options where I can embed the email message on here. I can also say preview. It's going to pop open a new tab and show us what that kind of looks like. So here I've got my buyers selected, but I didn't select any of their personal information. So that's why we're not seeing any. So we're not seeing any details except for their names. Below that, we've got our documents. So this is showing that the conditional loan approval letter is missing. But if you see here, this pre-approval letter, this is fully executed. If I click on it, it allows me to download that particular document, which I think is pretty cool. Below that, here we've got the appraisal documents. We've got some inspection documents. It says this one's missing, but I do see it here. So this could be that this document hasn't been marked as in the system. If we go and look at our document templates, we can kind of check that out. So if we go to document templates, what's that called? Inspection addendum, and it is in inspection documents. Got quite a few on here, so I want to make sure I know I'm going to the right place. So here we can see it has that M right now. If I click on that again, it removes that M, and it would, if we were to reprint that that one sheet, so we'll just go back to one sheets. Here's Hannah. We'll go ahead and click on preview. When we reprint it, if we scroll back down, we'll notice that that M's gone. So just give you an example of kind of what that looks like. If I continue to scroll down, it's going to show me all of the documents that are on this particular property and what's missing. So that's an example of a one sheet. Now for our templates, we're going to exit out of this property. We're going to click on our 3-line icon. We're going to go down to our hammer icon and get into templates. If you go all the way down, we've got one sheet templates. Now, I believe on all plans, Grow, Pro, and Scale, you can create as many one sheet templates as you need to. I would definitely make sure that the naming convention is very clear. Maybe you have certain agents who get certain information and other agents who get limited view of information. I would name those one sheets. That way, when you apply them, you know what what information you're sharing. If you wanted to create a new one, you're just going to select add new, pop in your name and create it from there. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and click on this weekly under contract update OTC1. If this looks familiar to you guys, you most likely have the pre-built account and you have a lot of verbiage in your account right now for task templates, document templates, intake forms that have OTC1. OTC1 is just showing that that's the version of the pre-built account that you have currently. We're going to click on edit. Once we're editing in there, it gives us a list of fields. So here we have all of our fields. Up at the top, you have your transaction details, listing details, commission details, intake questions, and archive fields. These field groups up at the top aren't always going to say these words here. If you've edited your field editor and you've changed the verbiage up here, that's what it's going to show. This is just showing you all of the fields that you currently have in your account. You can go through this list. You can say, I want to show all of them or only a couple of them. But if I scroll through this, you're going to notice address has been selected. Some property details have been selected. So depending on what you need this one sheet for, you can say, oh, I want a custom listing intake one sheet just to let them know where we're at on the process, give them a nice overall view of where we're at for their listing. This is one way you could use it. You could also use it just to send out transaction details. Once that's gone under contract, if you want to send out a weekly update, here are the values that we're waiting on, what's been scheduled, what hasn't been scheduled. If I continue to scroll down the page, like I said, it's just going to go to the bottom and just let you know, hey, it's not going to update any of the prior applied one sheets. It's for all future one sheets, right? I'm going to scroll back up to the top. if we click on design, this allows us to alter the way it looks. So it shows us kind of an example of what that top part looks. We can update the font size, the table size, the color, the sub font text. If I scroll down, we can also upload a logo as well. We also have the layout. So this is deciding what order we want to see things in. Maybe we want the address at the very, very top and then critical details. And then maybe property details underneath critical deadlines. If I scroll down, you'll notice that it also shows us our contact roles. Maybe we want those to be at the top. Currently, a buyer is selected. It's showing their personal information and their business information. A home inspector's on here and a title officer. How are we bringing on these contacts? We're selecting their contact role here to set up that particular template. If you wanted to remove any of these, I believe that we're going to want to uncheck, and then it'll give me the ability to delete. Actually, no, I think that we have to uncheck them from this list. Here we go. Yeah. So I'd uncheck my buyer from here, and now my buyer's been removed. That's what it was. Sorry about that. So here now we have that back in that buyer. Below that, we have our documents. Once again, we have those same options that we did when we were building it out on the property. We've got the ability to add property notes and then what tasks we want to show as well. And again, each one of these can be reordered. We can put property notes at the bottom. We can bring completed tasks all the way to the top if we'd like to. It just depends on what you need and how you want it to look. I would definitely suggest playing around with your layout first before you start applying the template, because again, it's not going to retroactively update those that data. Any changes made to this template are going to be for all future properties that have this one sheet applied to it. Scrolling back up to the top, we also have the ability to pop in an email. What I usually suggest is keep it neutral, okay? Don't put anything in here that's going to be anything too intense, like any merge fields, because if you're missing those people, those merge fields are going to be blank. It might look a little funny. We definitely suggest keeping it very neutral in this message. This is not a message that you're going to be editing before you send out, okay? So this is like, think of it as like the one-time message that gets sent out every single time. Now, the reason this doesn't get edited is because we have the ability to schedule it. So we can say that every Tuesday at this time, we want it to go out. So it can be once a week that it needs to go out on Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day of the week that you need it, as well as the time of day. Now, what I usually suggest when we're scheduling the time of day is try to think, okay, I want this to go out like 30 minutes before or 15 minutes before the client is going to receive it. That's what I would suggest thinking of when you're going to do this, just to give yourself a little bit of a window. That way you can say, okay, well, you're going to receive it by 12 p.m. You'll receive it by lunch. If you set it up for 12, depending on how many other one sheets you might have be coming out of your system, it might be a little bit delayed. So if you set it up for let's say 11:45, right? If I click on time of day and you say, okay, well, I want it to go out like at 11, or I'd like it to be in their inbox at like 11:30, set it up for 11. And then that way, when you have those go out, you can say, check your inbox by 12 and you should have that email from me with that one sheet weekly update. Just a suggestion. You can still set it up to whatever you want it to. Here we can add the recipients as well. So we don't have to have the contacts that were included on there as the recipients as well. We're changing that here. We're deciding who gets to receive this one sheet here. I'd probably want to BCC my buyer and BCC my seller if I was going to send them, just to keep those parties anonymous. But here I would just select the contact role and then select whether I'm sending it to them, CCing them, or BCCing them. Let me know if there were any other follow-ups for that. Doesn't look like they were. Awesome. Then we have another question about commissions. Yeah, absolutely. So commissions. First things first, I'm going to head over to our pricing plan here. So I just went to open to close and clicked on pricing. We're going to head down to our commissions. Here we are. I like to go to this because it helps me reference very clearly what we have for commissions. So if you were on the Grow plan, you are going to get access to the property commissions. So you'll be able to create a commission template on a property. So if we go to a property and you go to commissions, you'll be able to create one, but you'll only be able to create one. So each property only gets one individual commission template currently, or commission report, I should say currently. If you were on the Pro plan, you're going to have access to those commissions again. If I go over to commissions, you're going to have access to add in commissions again here. But you'll also get the opportunity to add on up to 3 commission reports. You'll also have the ability to create 3 different commission templates. Okay. A lot of people end up looking, you know, they're on the grow plan and they're looking for commission templates. That's not available on the grow plan. It's going to be the pro plan. And then on the scale plan, you get unlimited commission reports and unlimited commission templates. Once again, templates are pretty straightforward. Here, if we say create commission, I'm just going to go ahead and name this Hannah's test. Submit, pop open that Hannah's test. Here we can see that it has nothing on it. So we'd want to build it out. For anyone who's on the grow plan, you'd want to build out that commission template on the property. For anyone who's on the pro or scale plan, they'll be able to apply that template. So here's a couple examples of those templates. Let's go ahead and add this one and see what it has on it. Awesome. So now that I've added on it, if I scroll down here, we're getting into some of the details about this particular transaction. So right now it says buyer side GCI. It is copied from the buyer side commission percentage of the purchase amount. So I know if I head over to my property details and I go into my commission details, what I'm going to want to look for is a buyer side commission percentage. So here I see buyer side, here I see buyer side. This one has a $sign. I'm going to assume that that's the percentage. If I click on it, it confirms that it's the percentage. So if I pop in, let's go ahead and just say 3% and I update that. What I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to click on refresh just so that we can freshen up the attachment there. Here now we see that $10,350 has been applied here. We can see that the team split has also split itself automatically, but we can see that that subtraction for the file also is there. So the payout for this particular buyer side is going to be $4,825. If I scroll down here, we see the commission again. So 50% of the buyer side GCI, which is this one right here. This is the other 50%. Here's the other 5,000 that's going out. Here's the brokerage split that pulled out. And then here's that agent split that showing agent split that pulled out as well. So here we can see this is how much that particular person is going to get paid out. That particular person is going to get paid out this amount, and the agent will get paid out this amount. So this is an example of what that one looks like. If I continue to scroll down here, we can see, you know, here's just a step where it shows us how much that was. I can click on download CDA. It's going to download that CDA. I'm going to go ahead and download it, and then we'll pop it open. And this is an example of what it can look like. So here it's showing us all of the work that it went through, subtracting and adding that out. If we scroll down to the bottom, if we notice it's blank at the bottom, this is kind of a great place if you do need to get this like signed by anyone, you just confirm that they've seen it, right? This is a calculator, but if you want to have them confirm that they see it, you can add signatures to the bottom. There's plenty of white space there. Depending on how long your commissions, though, you might need to think about that, take that into consideration if you're planning on using this for signatures. Again, like I said, if we needed to create a commission template, we're going to exit out of that property. We're going to go down to our hammer icon into templates. Once we're in templates, again, if you're on the pro plan and the scale plan, you're going to see commission templates underneath API field mapping. Once we're on there, you can select add new and create that new template, or you can edit one that we already have. So again, OTC1, this is on our pre-built account. If I select edit, it'll take me in there and it'll show me some of those details. So it looks like it's pulling on a couple widgets as well as some people. If I scroll down, what it likes to do is it'll show you the dollar amount. So it'll just give you a sample dollar amount. Right now it's 100K. And then when you go down, what it's doing is it's just going to add in some test dummy values. That way you can make sure that the values are populating correctly. So it says, you know, copied from buyer side commission, the buyer side commission value in the property will be used. This is only showing an example. So just keep that in mind. It's an example.
I'm going to add in a couple quick strategies, just as we've seen users building out some pretty advanced commission templates in the system. It's always great to see that and just the creativity that's coming with it. For some users, they are building out breakdowns that are somewhat complex, where not only do they have a referral fee and they need to be able to track that, but they also are taking out multiple steps in their process. And so they actually create multiple top level steps. And that is something that you can do depending on, again, how you're trying to build that calculation. So if you guys have questions on your commission breakdown specifically, we love to help users with that. Feel free to reach out to us in support. But if you ever have any examples of what you're trying to build out, we can always do that on call too. And the main reason, again, I would typically do something like this is because I need to get creative with my commissions, be able to sync some of those values back to my fields to get the breakdown the way that I want it to. So as Hannah's doing, she's showing you here, you can have multiple top level steps. Why would I want to do that? Again, those strategies do vary, but your top level steps are how your breakdowns start. And that's always going to be based off of the initial purchase amount, as we see here. So you can, again, get creative with that. Now, the 2-line arrow icon, Hannah, with syncing your commissions back to your field values. I always try and stress this one as well, because it can do much more than just calculating those details and showing you in a CDA. If you are syncing those commission breakdowns back to your fields, you can then use them in reporting. Be able to see your gross commissions, what the initial calculation was, that 3% from the purchase amount. And then from there, if there's any deductions or additions, you can also see the net value that you get after all calculations are made. So what this screen is showing is the option to sync your initial math operator value, your next sync calculation. I consider that to be more of like the gross initial amount that was calculated there, the 3%. And then the sync split total, that is more so your net. Again, that will be the in total that is going to be in the gray shaded box at the bottom of your steps. So with commissions, for some users, they are also trying to do some advanced reporting. So that assigned user will allow you to also do reporting on your commission specifically, and divvy that up between maybe a co-agent and your main agent. So let us know how we can help, as commissions are very custom to teams and brokerages, but just wanted to highlight that before we move on.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love being able to show that here. You know, we've got that sync total split right now that is assigned to this one. So when we go to our reporting tool, like Jenna was saying, for anyone who's on the Grow, Pro, and Scale plan, you will have access to reporting. But here I could pull a report. I can say I want to look for a very specific field, and that field being, let me get down to our commissions. I might have actually passed it. Okay, good. I didn't. I thought I passed it. Here's that total agent net commission. If I add that in there, I can now pull a report to see, okay, well, what was the amount and who was it is specifically assigned to? If I go to the list here, it's going to have that particular person, and it's going to show what that value is. Very cool stuff. Thank you for adding that, Jana. Alrighty, I have a list of Zillow review links, one for each agent. I'm trying to find a way to add the appropriate link to the email for sold property. How did agent do? Would you leave a review on this link? Can't figure out how to reference a particular agent so I can pull in the right link. So you have a couple options here, Todd. It depends on how we're determining that particular agent on the property. If you're wanting to do specific people, what I would probably suggest, depending on how long your list of agents are, is that we have a specific field that allows you to select what agent there are. So we would want to create a new field. We could say my agents if we wanted to. Once I add in that merge field, my agents will select the field type as a choice. Here, we wouldn't want to say select multiple options, but we would add in this field and then we would list our agents from there. So I'm going to go ahead and create it. We're going to add in a Hannah Hoxie. We're going to add in a Jana Gray. So here's our 2 agents. Now, once I've added in these agents here, what I can do is I can either ask for it on the internal side when we have that intake form come in. That's probably what I would suggest. That way your TC's validating and selecting the correct agent. And then from there, when we're looking at our smart blocks, you can have a smart block that says Jana's review links, right, for Zillow. Popping in that merge field again. I'm going to go ahead and remove that excessive space there. Say add. Once I have that in there, I can use the conditions to say, well, if the property field, my agent, there we go, is equal to Jana Gray, then we want this block of text to come on. This is their referral or whatever it is that you wanted to say here. Actually, I can just grab your verbiage that you typed in here. Pop that in there. So agent, you could say you want to pull in the buyer's agent or the seller's agent's name and then have them come on here and then insert that link here. So this would be one way you'd want to do it. Jana or any other panelists, can you guys think of another way that you would want to build out this particular function?
Yeah, so we actually did the same thing. What we did is if you go to a contact record for me,
Let's go
there's
to
not necessarily a spot for a link, but we use the website field. And so we're right where you have open both, we would put in a website link there. And then like if we're on the buyer side, we'll say, okay, our buyer's agent, pull in buyer's agent website and put that in the email. So that's what we did in ours.
Oh my gosh, I actually love that as an example even better. I'm so glad. So what Jill is saying is that if you have that email already built out, let's go ahead and say agent review email. Say we've got it like that. Here we've got it that it has the values here. I'm just going to paste in what you put again. And we can say hello, pop in our buyer's merge field, but here we can add in that buyer agent or seller agent merge field that we need. So by clicking on our 3-line icon, going to contact roles, looking up the buyer agent. Here's that buyer's agent. We can grab their full name if we'd like to. For this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and just pop that in there. And then the specific link that Jill is referring to is right here underneath personal. If we scroll down, here's that buyer agent website, and we can have it that it comes in like this. So now what it does is, how did this buyer agent do? So how did, let's say Jana did, would you leave a review on buyer agent website? So now that's actually probably the better way to do it. I would probably suggest this, especially if you have multiple agents. Like if you're working with like 30, 40 plus agents, definitely have this set up, because now it's going to be dependent on whether you're taking care of the buyer or the seller. So we can name this, buyer agent. So that way we know that this is the version that goes to the buyers. So here I'm going to just pop in our CC and our BCCs on this. I would probably want to add in the text line. Thanks for working with us. And then pop in, maybe the address, the property address might be nice. Oh, property email address, I meant address. Address, there we go. And now what that email will look like on the property, now that I've kind of popped in some more values, let's go ahead and head to our webinar property. Let's go to emails. Let me see if I have anything in here. I do. Let me go ahead and just delete that really quickly. And then I'm going to apply that email template. Here's that agent review buyer agent. When I apply it, it's going to pull in that agent's name. So this is the agent's name. And then if they had a link, which they don't right now, but we can add one in. Who is the buyer's agent again that's pulling in? Andy. There we go. Andy, edit. If we popped in his website URL here, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab open to closes, pop it in there, press update. Let's go ahead and reapply that email. And now what it's going to do is it's going to pull in that particular address as well. Here we go. Now, obviously, it doesn't look the greatest. We might want to use a smart block for that as well, to have it that it populates a little bit differently. But this is how we can have that built out. I think this is a lot smoother of a way to get that that email review out to the appropriate party members.
I'm just going to add one little nugget with that too, just as you are building out your team's best practices. There's 2 website fields on a contact, one under personal and one under business. So just make sure your team is consistent with adding the review link to whichever website field you're using for that. And then you can have the other website link for that agent's actual main website if needed as well. So just want to highlight that you do have 2 fields for website, one under each section.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Jenny. Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah. Next question. All right. Just starting out, where would you say the best place is to begin? Looking to streamline from nothing to my first transaction. So it depends on how quickly you want to get started with the system. If you're looking for a really rapid, like I just want to jump in and I want to start using it right away. What I would probably suggest is joining our group onboarding calls. They're once a week. We go through different topics. Today we went through documents to get you guys kind of fresh and started up with that. We also have some training documents as well. So if you're looking for, onboarding training, maybe you prefer written content versus video, you can check out our onboarding series if you want to get started really quickly. We are currently making updates to those, so there's going to be more stuff coming out. As far as for what to start within your system, let's say you're like, thanks for showing, I know about the resources. Where do I start? I just want to know what place to start with. What we typically suggest you start with is, again, we're going to have this 3-line icon expanded so we can see all of our options here. We'll head down to our hammer icon. And what I first suggest taking a look at is your fields. You're going to want to make sure that you have all of the appropriate fields in here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one that we created earlier. That way I don't forget about it later. What I would first suggest is take a look at your fields. So take a peek at what's already built out in here. Try to think of fields that you might need. If you locate fields and you go, actually, I don't handle seller disclosure at all. Instead of deleting that field, like I just did where we clicked on that little delete button, what I would do instead is I would click on groups, click on sort groups. And if you find yourself going, I don't need seller disclosure, go ahead and drop them over into like an archive field group there with the archive field section. And the reason I suggest doing this is that if, let's say like 3 months down the line, your process changes and you end up start taking care of seller disclosure, you can always bring those details back. They're not deleted and removed from your system. The only time I would suggest deleting fields is if you know for sure, Hannah, I will never be doing that. I do not handle that process at all. That's not something part of what I do. Then definitely feel free to delete them, especially if you need to clean up your field sections or you've got too many field sections. Definitely clean them up there. Once you're done taking a peek at your fields and kind of getting used to that, I would then head into your filters and take a look at your contact roles, make sure that all of your contacts, that the party members that you work with are in here. I would also make sure that they have their corresponding CC on all buyers emails, BCC on all buyers emails. The use case for this is, let's say I'm a buyer and I'm purchasing a home and I've got Jana helping me purchase that home. She's just kind of advising me and helping make sure I keep on track with things. And then also just like making sure the documents look good. I can have Jana set up as the CC on all buyer emails. And what that can do, how you can set it up is that, well, Hannah was going to receive the email. It's going to say, hi, Hannah, thanks for working with us. But Jana will also receive a CC copy of it. We could also have Jana be CC'd on it if we wanted Jana to be able to see the emails, but not necessarily be CC on it. We don't want anyone to have to worry about reaching out to Jana kind of thing. So the reason that we like adding this in there is because it just makes things easier to have that communication flow back and forth between people and keep the party members in tune. If I scroll down, you're going to notice we've got one for CC on all attorney emails, BCC on all attorney emails, buyer agent emails. So this could be like for a lead or a coach who's just kind of helping you out with your communication if they want to be CC'd on it. Scrolling down, we've got one for lenders, listing agent, and so on and so forth. So really get creative and think like, what other people would I want to send information to, but they don't necessarily have like a role. They're just someone that is usually involved with my transactions. That's where these guys come in. After you're done with your contacts, take a look at your file roles. When you're looking at your file roles, what you should be doing here is you should be adding in every single version of the file that you work with, that you put your hands on. So up here at the top, we've got BS, FE, SS. BS stands for buyer side, FE stands for fully executed, and SS stands for seller side. The reason we have the iterations for these is because in our system, and one way you could manage your documents is if you wanted to track, okay, well, I only got the buyer signature on this, and so I'm going to reach out and make sure I have my buyer reach out on this. You also might have it where they, you also might have it where they have more than just the buyer side or the seller side. You could also add an LS for lender sign if you needed to. Just think about the documents you're tracking in your process, and I would add in each version of them. The main reason that we make the suggestion to add in each version of these is that as you continue to use the system and you start to grow and you start to add on more information and more things, if you decide to move to the scale plan, having these different versions and being used to adding in these different versions of these file roles will really, really help you out when you're talking about your form conditions. It's something that we talked about today on Documents 101. If any of you guys are interested, definitely reach out to support and we can get you a copy of that recording. Anything else that my team thinks that we should start with as well? Like fields, filters, I know that that's usually pretty straightforward. Is there anything that you guys would want to start with as well, like tack onto the list? Cool. All right.
No, I'd say you're going to want to start with the foundation, things like smart blocks, even your intake forms. Those are going to be later in the process. Get those fields in, file roles, contact roles, like Hannah was saying, focus on your tasks, your emails. But a lot of the extra features, unless you're trying to answer questions right now in the moment, definitely reach out to us. Let us help show you what the system can be as you're going into it. But really hyper focus on that foundation for now, knowing that it's going to be 3 to 6 months as you're going to continue to refine your system as you start to use it more and more.
Definitely. Alrighty, next question. What is the difference between using a new property form versus an intake form to create my transactions? This is an awesome question. So it kind of feeds into what we were just talking about when you're checking out your fields and you're checking out your contacts and stuff like that. Once you're done with that and you feel good about that, I definitely suggest adding in a test transaction. There's two ways or a couple ways that you can get properties into open to close. If we click on this new plus sign up at the top, this is my preferred way of getting properties in. We do have this way of adding in properties as well, but let's say I'm, taking a look at my properties. I have to go back to the dashboard to add in a property, or I believe it adds a property up here. Here, let's go to our task pipeline. When we go to our task pipeline, we'd have to go back to the dashboard to add in a property. But if we're looking at our task pipeline, that add plus new is always at the top. So get into using this to add in those properties. You could also use shortcuts as well. But here we have new property. This is what a property form is, right? So here we're just adding in the details for that particular property. I can choose my team. Let's go ahead and pop some people in there. Here I can select a property template. What property templates are is it's a collection of different templates within your system. So this Hannah's test for cash deal templates, if I know that this deal is a cash deal, these are all the things that it adds on for a cash deal. So these are the list of templates that it adds on: a date template, a couple document templates, a field template, and some task templates. When I select next, it's going to give me all of the field details that I could possibly want to fill out. So here I could fill out as many of the details as I want to, just clicking through each one of these to make sure that I have all the values in here. This is a manual way of entering in transactions into open to close. This way is only available for internal users. So if you received a contract, your TC has to fill out and get that property in here. This is one of the ways that you can get that property added in here. Once you feel good about it, you can click create property and it's going to populate that property for us. I didn't enter in any details though, so this is going to be pretty blank. But what it is doing right now is it's loading in my templates and then it's going to add in those templates for me, my task templates, my document templates, all that good stuff. But this is what it looks like to create that property manually. What I want you guys to take notice is that everything came on regardless. So appraisal details came on, but I said it was a cash deal. Loan details came on, but I said it was a cash deal. I don't know if I need inspection. I don't know if I need repairs or HOA for this particular deal. Everything came on. Now, the reason I like to point that out is because the other way we can get properties into open to close is by using our intake form. I'm going to go ahead and grab this intake form and pop it open. When we're taking a look at this intake form, I'm just going to scroll down. Looks like someone's already in the middle of filling this out. We can leave it at that. But when we fill out this intake form, here we have specific questions. So instead of, filling out all the details and having access to all the details that you could fill out, instead now we can say, yes, there's going to be appraisal. Yes, there's a loan, there's an inspection, and there's seller disclosure. So now I'm actually saying what that is for this particular one. I could also say, maybe this is a cash deal, but they have an appraisal, or conventional, whatever I need to here. These questions are all customizable. This is why we suggest taking a look at your fields, because this is going to let you know, okay, well, let me take a look at the intake form. Let me take a look at the fields. What's already built out? What questions, if I say yes to, is there an inspection? What happens next? This is going to bring on our fields, probably going to bring on some documents, and it's going to bring on a task template as well for inspections. If I say no, though, then I know that it's not going to bring on that information that I don't need. So intake forms are how you're getting those transactions custom built or custom populated based off of the conditional logic that you've built out. So it just depends on what you need. But if I scroll down, what I want you guys to take notice as well is that here now it's only showing me the values that I need to fill out. So earnest money, let's go ahead and say 3 days. Seller disclosure, let's go ahead and say 17, 17, 17, 17, and 17. So now I've populated in my days value. What this is going to do as well is this is going to communicate with our date template and calculate the dates and pop those in for me. So it just makes it a little bit easier, especially if these days field change for each one of your guys' contracts. You can also have that date template set up to that you can say that it's always going to be 17 days after contract acceptance, and you don't need to fill out this field. It just depends on what you need. The main takeaway from this, though, is that what I want you guys to take away from this is that when we fill out the intake form, we're using conditional logic to have certain task templates, document templates come onto the property, even fields come onto that property. When we fill out a property and we just select new property, we are manually filling out that property. We're manually applying a set of task templates and fields to that property. So there's a little bit of cleanup afterwards if you don't want all of those fields showing on that property. The other way that you can bring in properties is by importing them from Dotloop, SkySlope, or Brokerment. If you guys are importing from those, a couple caveats with that, I'll go ahead and go to Dotloop. Here, we're going to select the profile that we want to Dotloop or bring in. Here's an example of a property. We're going to want to select that API field mapping template. That way it can map the fields from Dotloop into open to close. When I press on that little next button, it's going to take me to the next page. And I see a lot of people choosing their team. And they choose their user, and then they like scroll down to the bottom and they import the loop right away. And then they have to go back and apply the property template. What I usually suggest is hold on a second, take a look at the property template here. You can apply one if you need to. So this is an example if you needed to import from Dotloop. I still would suggest using that intake form though, because we can always connect it to Dotloop later. So let me go ahead and grab another, let's go ahead and grab the webinar one. On this particular, actually, no, let me grab one that's empty. I think that this one doesn't, I don't think that this one's connected to anything just yet. So this is a property. It has some data. You can see here, we've got our dates on it and our fields look good. We've probably got some documents. We've got some tasks on it. We've also got some contacts that are available as well. What we can do is we can go to our More tab, head to that Dotloop integration, and instead we can either link the property if that Dotloop property is already created, or we can export the property from open to close and push it over into Dotloop. So what that looks like is this. Here I can apply that, that API template here. Let me just add on Jill's. Once I do that, it's going to go through and it's going to apply it. This one may not be working right now. I know that I was making some changes to the backend, so it might not work completely for me. Okay, yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a slowdown. Sorry if you guys are seeing that on Zoom, but here we can see that those fields are now mapped. We can continue to map them. It's going to show us all of the fields that are currently on this property. So some of these you may not have or you may not need. Everything on the left-hand side is going to be what's in open to close. What's in the drop down here is what's in Dotloop. Once we've made that selection, we can go to choose loop type, select what type we have. It's going to ask us what the, if it props it, there we go, status is. So here we can change that status from pre-offer to under contract. And then I can say create loop and it'll create that loop and it'll link it. The way it looks when it's linked is like this. We go to our More tab, Dotloop. This is what it looks like when it's linked. So we can import details from Dotloop if we need to. We can import contacts from Dotloop if we need to. We can import documents if we need to. We can also push contacts over to Dotloop. So if I go to contacts and Bernice isn't in here, I can say add to Dotloop. It'll ask me for this information. I'll select their role, populate some information and say add to loop. One thing that we found recently today, it's a little tidbit I'm going to share with you guys just because we're a little lighter on questions today. If you do have that Dotloop integration and you're trying to push things over and you notice, every single time I choose, title officer, let's go ahead and do that. I choose my title officer and, I don't really need any of those other values. It doesn't let me go through. Hannah, it always stops me, gets mad at me because I haven't put in, my city, state, zip or country, right? We just found this out on on our integration call yesterday. If you are looking at Bernice and you select edit for their contact, and you're on their personal details, and you go ahead and you add in, and I'm going to go ahead and pop in my address. So we'll do Turlock, California, 95382. And we'll go ahead and add in USA and say update. When we update those personal details and we pop in that address there, just as simple as the city, the state, the zip, and the country that they're in, when we go to add it to dot loop, it pulls in those values as long as we select our title rep correctly. So here we're selecting that role in dot loop. Now we can just say add to loop and it goes immediately. So while you guys are going through and you're validating your contacts, what I would suggest is if you're using dot loop, you're pushing people over, save yourself the effort. Instead of you having to look it up and manually type it in, have that already saved to your contacts personal details. And then when you go to add it to dot loop, it already pulls in those values and it makes it a lot easier to push contacts over. We also have the ability, obviously, to push over documents as well, if we wanted to. So we would go to the document that we want to push over, click on that drop down and select upload to dot loop and push that in. Awesome. Next question. When using an email template on a task or trigger, how do you set it to go out from someone other than the default? For example, 95% of the emails go out to Isaac, so he's the default. However, not a insignificant number of comms go from client concierge. How do I set the CC default for email templates? Okay, so whenever we're talking about sending out emails from a property, that default email, even if let's say Gianna's covering for me on this particular property, or let's say Rory's covering for implementation demo on this property, even if implementation demo is out and we send emails from here, unless we reassign this particular property to Rory, anytime the emails go out, they're going to send out from whatever emails are available underneath implementation demo's account. So we've kind of looked at this before. I'm going to go ahead and head over to our settings gear icon and go to email addresses. On implementation demo, they have a couple different versions of themselves. So we've got this Hannah, this Hannah, this Hannah, and then we've got a Microsoft and a non-API one. If we wanted to have it that 95% of the time they're sent from, Hannah Hoxie, but then 10% of the time, very rarely, a couple emails go from, pretend this says team at open to close. What we'll want to do is make sure that that alias is underneath that particular user's account. But even when we send out that email, all sent emails are going to still be related back to whatever default email address is assigned to that particular user. So it's always going to come from Isaac, basically, to simplify that. Yes, Jana.
And that really comes down to when you're building out your email templates, can you actually open up a task template with a trigger, Hannah?
Definitely.
When you're, and I would do it in the back end if we can, associating an email in a task trigger, you're going to have a checkbox to say use default send from address when I'm sending out this email. And that's telling the system whatever we put under defaults and settings, that is the address that we're using. However, if you deselect that and wait, it's going to give you a drop down. So you could hypothetically hard code that email from the send from address. You just have to keep in mind, you are hard coding that. So every single time this task trigger queues up and it's sending that out, it will come from that email address. And if you ever need to change that for future processes, you have to come into the task trigger itself where that email was connected to change it here for that change to take effect for any new property. So that is the main exception if you were to hard code it to come from the same address every single time. I just wanted to throw that layer in.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super glad that you brought this up because I actually didn't even realize we had this drop down. This must be, to me, it feels like a new thing, but I'm really glad to see this. So Todd, what I would probably suggest is that if Isaac's, has his account, I would also create an alias that's something like your guys' team at domainname.com. And I would have it that is also an email that's, an alias for Isaac, so that if you needed to send it from a different email for this one, let's say initial meeting to main buyer under contract needs to come from the team email, you could have that team email selected here instead of using the property default. So perfect. Jenna, I'm super glad you brought that up because that's an awesome tool. Awesome tool. Alrighty. Next question. Can a time be input in the intake form? For example, inspection time. I believe that's controlled by our fields. Let's do a test. Let me see what I have on my intake form. That's for dates that comes on. I might not have anything on this particular one, so I might have to add one on. Let's go ahead and add one on. Jana, do you know off the top of your head if we say that the time is required that it'll show up on that intake form?
It's actually a great question. I haven't tested that one in a minute, so I was pulling it up.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm going to add on earnest money due date. So what I've done here is I've gone to my intake form. I've selected that field to show up on the agent side and I've made it required. I've also made sure that it's selected on the internal side, that way that field comes onto the property. I'm going to head back to our field editor really quickly. I'm going to locate our earnest money due date. And I'm just going to make sure that this time for this date is required. And I'm going to change that to yes. Once I've changed it to yes, I'm going to say I understand an update. Now that that field is there and that's been updated, let's go ahead and take a peek at that intake form. So I'm going to go to intake form. Let's go to this one. I believe I added it to this one. Hopefully I did. Here, I'll pop in an address. Let's go ahead and scroll down until I see our earnest money due date. So it looks like right now it's only pulling in that field to enter in the date on the intake form. Now, when we make it required on the internal side, I believe that will show that specific value for the earnest money. Like I believe it asks for that time on the internal side. But we'd have to do some testing and figure that out. Definitely reach out to support, Adriana, if you'd like to. And we can kind of do some more testing and send you a couple Loom videos to show you what we find for it. But as of right now, it looks like even if we make that time required, quote unquote, it will not pull it onto the intake form necessarily. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to pull it onto the property. Cool. Alrighty. Next question. I set up a fake agent user account for one of my agents, but now they want real access to the portal. Is there a way for me to get their email address, to update their email address and send login information? So if we're referring to like updating a organization and users, so we're going to head down to our gear icon. Here's organization and users. We can also access it by going up to our little person icon and clicking on organization, or I can do Control O, and that'll also take me to my organization users. Just a couple different ways that we can kind of get to this. If we go to agents here, we have these two agents here. Let's say that this particular email is being used for our for Ansel, and I want to make sure that she, gets access to it. You can technically, if you want your fake agent user account, if it has the agent's email associated with it, what I would suggest doing is reaching out to our support and having us clear out that email for you. I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can alter the email. Can we impersonate and alter the email there? Okay. I wasn't sure if we could alter the email on here, but if we impersonate, it's going to be underneath our person icon underneath profile. Okay, so awesome. So here's underneath security. So if you need to change that email address, you can. If you need to change that username, you can. This would be if you used their actual email on your fake account. Now, if you didn't and you used a dummy email on their fake account, what I would probably just do is invite them as a user to your open and close. So getting back into our organization and users, if you used a fake email for that fake profile and now that agent wants real access, what I would do is I would create a brand new agent portal user for them. And then if you want to, you can always go to the properties. You can click on the little drop down where it says agent portal user. We can click on manage access, go to agent portal users. Depending on what plan you're on, you can either add on additional portal user, or if we click on where it says agent portal user, we can update who this particular property belongs to. So if you want to change it from the fake agent user account to the actual agent, here you can update that and you can reassign that property to them. So it just depends on how you have it set up currently for that particular person.
Looks like we have a follow-up with that.
Oh, yes.
We shouldn't need a password to impersonate your agent portal profiles. If you're running into that please reach out to us, let us know. But as soon as you impersonate, change their email address, they can go and do the forgot password prompt as well if they want to go through and reset the password on their end if you're not sure what the password is yourself. So that can be a beneficial option if impersonation allows you to change the email but not the password. Direct your agent to just do the forgot password. And if you run into issues at that point, again, reach out to us, let us know.
Awesome. 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 Alrighty. Next question. How do we sync OTC to FUB? Does it have to be agent specific? It does not. So if you have a Follow Up Boss account, it's your account and you want to make that connection. First step that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to our settings, apps and API, and we're going to want to make sure that we have that API key connected here. Currently, we can only connect one Follow Up Boss account to one profile within open to close. If we want to add on additional people, we'll want to go to those additional people and have them added on there. So here, this would be for you, for your account that you use for Follow Up Boss. If you want to have your agents as well, we're going to want to head to that agent. We can either impersonate them or have the agent fill this out, but the agent would want to come in here, log in as themselves, head to their lock icon and add in their credential. So here they could add in their API key for their account for Follow Up Boss. Now, when we go to look at a property, as long as that Follow Up Boss connection has been made correctly, we can go to a property, we can head to our More tab and go to Follow Up Boss. And now we see our implementation demo. And we also see our OTC test agent as well. So it's showing us this is the one that's connected to our Follow Up Boss account. This one's connected to the agent's Follow Up Boss account. This here explains what each one of these contact syncs, deal syncs, and widget syncs do. If you were to set it up on demo, I believe you also have to go to OTC test agent and set it up on theirs. I want to do some testing. I'm going to have to do some testing though, because I know that when we click on it, it shows both. So I have to do some testing to see how it works. I also know that I'm technically using the same API key for both of these. So that could be another reason why I'm seeing the same user across the board. But the idea behind this is I'm going to go back to More Follow Up Boss. I definitely suggest reading what each one of these widgets do before making the connection on them, because depending on what widget you want to use will depend on what information you want to sync. Here's how we do it from here. So this is just connecting through the API, syncing to the contact, syncing through the widgets, or syncing to deals. You can also push over tasks into Follow Up Boss. We're currently, investigating other ways to make this a little bit easier, but for now, you can go to that task if you need to add that task to Follow Up Boss. Here, you can click on Assign Task. It'll ask you which Follow Up Boss we want to use, so implementation demo or the test agent. I can select the person that I want to use. I can select the user that I want it to be assigned to, especially if I'm the admin of that Follow Up Boss account. And then you can search for that particular person. So I can type in Hannah, find Hannah, and now I've assigned that particular one. I went really quick on it. Let me click on it again. Here we can have in that title, that task type, the due date for it, and we can say update, and it'll update that into in Follow Up Boss. Let me know if there's more questions on that. Again, we did go over settings and integration on our call yesterday, and we did a kind of deep dive on that. So if you guys want to get a copy of that recording, definitely feel free to reach out to support, and we can get a copy of that integrations training that we did yesterday. Alrighty, we've got, oh, no worries. Todd, see you next week. If anyone else needs to hop off, I know we are 3 minutes to time. We've got one more question that we're going to get through. If anyone else has any last minute questions, definitely feel free to drop them into the Q&A and we will get to it. If we miss it, you can definitely reach out to us in support. How do I make task templates populate if we do not have template triggers? Like if a contract is terminated. So it kind of depends. When we open up a property, so this is an example of a property that's got stuff on it. Let's say we changed it. Actually, sorry, guy. We are no longer under contract. We have been terminated. I'm going to go ahead and say terminated and give us our check mark. This is going to ask me if I want to delete all uncompleted tasks or all tasks. What I would suggest is saying uncompleted tasks. What this will allow you to do is that if you ever need to go back to reference to this record, even though it's terminated, just in case if you need to reference it to see what did you do for this particular client, you can see all of those completed tasks. We just don't care about the uncompleted tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes and delete it because this is my test account. So I'm okay with doing that. Now, if I go and I go to completed tasks, here's that one completed task that we have. We didn't really do much else with this particular property. We have the option here to click on apply template. We can quickly search for our terminated task list. We can select that terminated task list and say apply. So this would be if it's not through triggers and you don't have a trigger template, this is how we can apply that task template. If you do have triggers, you can technically have it set up that when it goes to this particular file status terminated, then it triggers up that trigger for you to fire off. But applying template is typically the way that you're going to want to go if you're using that tool to delete all uncompleted tasks. Let me know if there are any follow-up questions on that. Gianna, Jill, do you have anything to add as well? Cool.
Nope, that was perfect.
Awesome, guys. So we are at time. As always, you can reach out to us in support here by selecting send us a message. You can send us a message at help@opentoclose.com. If you guys are looking for more webinars underneath our Open to Close website, you can go to learn, go to webinars. Today we reviewed documents. This was our Wednesday workshop class. Next week, we're going to be going over using Open to Close 101 and intake forms and property templates on Wednesday. So this is Tuesday. This is Wednesday. I definitely suggest all people who are new users or they are just starting out, or maybe they've been on the system for a while and they're like, am I using the system as effectively as I want to? Or, is there things that I'm missing? Definitely join us on that using Open to Close 101 call, because we go over a lot of like front end TC using the system subjects. For intake forms and property templates, this is great for anyone who's interested in learning more about intake forms and how they're built out and how we bring on that conditional logic and how we build out form triggers and form conditions. We also talk about how to create property templates and talk about the use cases for why you might need to use that as well. Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you hopefully on Tuesday on using Open to Close 101.